Welcome to Living Life Unbinged. I'm your host, Christy McCammon, and I'm here to help you conquer sugar cravings, break free from food obsession, and step into the surrendered and abundant life God has planned for you. Let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about how to build a temptation plan, an escape plan, so to speak, an emergency plan to put into effect when cravings and food noise get loud. In my last episode, I talked about the fact that even if we've chosen abstinence from sugar and flour and have a solid plan in place, temptation can still show up. Cravings can whisper to us when we're tired, stressed, lonely, anxious, or overwhelmed. And sometimes they don't whisper, they shout. The hardest part is the first few days when you eliminate processed sugar and flour. There is a detox period, about 3 to 5 days. Your brain is used to using sugar as relief, getting those dopamine hits, that comfort, the reward, and it's trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So during that time in the very beginning, I always recommend praying, resting, sleeping, and crying as much as possible. Your body's going to appreciate it. The good news is that fairly quickly, the food noise gets quieter. The cravings and temptations become fewer and far between, and you'll feel more stable and peaceful. But temptation doesn't disappear forever, and that's why we need a plan. Because temptation isn't just about the food, it's also spiritual. Matthew 26:41 says, "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." We want to do the right thing, but sometimes we're just worn down and tired. Before I tell you what's on my temptation plan and my favorite mantra or saying, I'm going to share a story about my battle with chips and salsa. A few months into my journey, I was feeling strong and really surrendered. Cravings were super quiet. I was rocking my food plan, weight was dropping, and nothing was going to throw me for a loop. Or so I thought. My family and I went to a Mexican restaurant for a birthday party. I looked at the menu online ahead of time. I wrote my meal in my food journal, and I even committed it to my accountability buddy. I told her what I was going to eat, and I planned to check in with her after the party. Then as I was sitting at the table talking to my daughter, a basket of chips and a bowl of salsa was set right in front of me. It literally stopped me in my tracks. Now in the past, and I'm not exaggerating, I wish I was, but I'm not, I could eat several baskets by myself. Once I started, my brain would not stop. I kept telling myself, okay, just one more. Okay, this is the last one. Okay, seriously, now I'm done. But I wasn't done. It was like my brain flipped into autopilot and wouldn't turn off. That's when I realized at the beginning of my journey that when I opened that door and started eating or allowed one or a few, it was almost impossible to stop. Now I know that the easiest thing wasn't stopping or trying to moderate. The easiest thing was not starting at all. And that's why I chose abstinence. Something you'll hear me say a lot is none is easier than one. Back to my story. My friends and I like to call the chips the devil's triangles because once we start, we're trapped. And that's exactly where the enemy wants us, stuck. James 4:7 says, "Submit yourselves to God and resist the devil and he will flee from you." Now, I want to be super clear. If you can eat a few chips and moderate and not want more, that's not sinful. But for me, once I start, I keep going and there is no end. So for me, it is something I need to pray through and ask for God's help and resist the enemy. In that moment, I have two options to make the temptation go away. I can give in and eat it, or I can resist. I had to move quickly. I remembered a saying I always say to my kids when they are faced with temptation or a situation they're unsure of. I always told them to stop, pray, and walk away. So that became a family slogan for us, and I realized I needed it for myself in this moment as well. I had to stop, literally be still, and know that He is God. Then I had to pray and say, Lord, help me through this temptation. Show me the way out. And then I had to walk away, literally move my feet. So I excused myself to the restroom. I knew I could stand on the promise of 1 Corinthians 10:13, where God promises that no temptation will overtake us and He will provide a way out. But I knew I had to move my feet and look for that way out and take it when I found it. When I was in the restroom, I started thinking through my temptation plan. So for me, the first thing is always to stop, pray, and walk away. That pause is really powerful, and it allows us to do the other things to get fully out of the tempting moment. Next, I usually text a friend or reach out to someone and bring that temptation into the light. Then I usually try and do something for someone else. Also, I try and think about all the things I'm thankful for and even start listing those in my head. Then I remind myself how I would feel if I dove headfirst into that temptation or how I would feel if I resisted. Those chips would have tasted good for a few moments. There's no question about that. But the after effects are miserable. So I reminded myself that it might be momentarily hard, but afterwards I would feel free, really good, and not looking for more food all night. Those are some of the key things on my temptation plan. And when I walk through all or most of them, I get through the temptation with ease. What I want you to know is that temptation doesn't mean you failed. It just means that your brain remembered an old pathway. Your body craved comfort, and the enemy tried to distract you. And every time you walk through temptation with God instead of food, your spirit grows stronger. When you have a plan for temptation and when it comes, you won't be surprised, you'll be prepared. So take time today to build a temptation plan for yourself. Always start with my favorite saying, stop, pray, walk away. That creates enough pause and the willingness and the surrender to make the next right choice. Thanks for joining me today. If you are ready to break free from food obsession and sugar cravings and start living your life unbinged, join me at lifeunbinged.com. If this episode spoke to your heart, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend. Until next week, go in grace and walk in freedom.